This documentary is about the telephone and Alexander Graham Bell. This will be a 10-minute long documentary made and produced by Leslie Alcolin, who will be talking for scene 1 and 3.
And Hiram Vasquez, who will be talking for scene 2 and scene 4.
Alexander was born in Edinburgh, Scotland, on March 3rd, 1847. He was an inventor, a scientist, and even an engineer. He had created the telephone. His mother and his wife were both dead, and he served as the second president of eugenic organizations on the year January 7th, 1898, until 1903. He had two brothers. One had the name Melville James Bell from 1845 to 1870, and Edward Charles Bell from 1848 to 1867, both of whom would die of tuberculosis. His father was Professor Alexander Melville Bell, a phonetician, and his mother was Eliza Grace Bell. When he was born, he was just Alexander Bell, so he made a plea to his father that at the age 10, he would have a middle name. When Alexander Bell turned of the age 11, his father acquiesced and allowed him to adopt the name Graham, and he did this chosen out of respect for Alexander Graham, a Canadian, being treated by his father who had become a family friend. As a child, young Bell displayed a curiosity about his world. He gathered botanical specimens and ran experiments at an early age. His best friend was Ben Herdsman, a neighbor whose family operated a flour mill. When he reached the age of 12, he built a homemade device that combined both rotating paddles with sets of nail brushes, creating a simple de-husking machine that was put into operation at the mill and used steadily for a number of years. In Bell's earlier years, he showed a sensitive nature and a talent for art, poetry, and even music. All these were encouraged by his mother, Eliza Grace Bell. Even when he was young, although being quite quiet most of the time, he reveled in mimicry and voice tricks akin to ventriloquism, which made family guests entertained during their occasional visits.
The origins of the telephone date back all the way to 1672, to when Robert Hooke created a telephone which is like the two soup cans connected by a wire. Robert Hooke's invention helped discover that sound could be transmitted through a wire and set the basis for the future inventions. In 1804, the first electrical telegraph was invented by Spanish polymath and scientist Francisco Salva Capillo. The first telegraph that was usable was created by Francis Ronalds in 1816, and Alexander got his inspiration from these two. In 1858, Cyrus Field was the first to create a telephone cable that connected England to the US through telegraph. This was a huge achievement as international communication was now possible. Alexander Graham Bell came to America as a teacher in speech. Alex was interested in the science of sound since both his mother and wife were deaf. His experiments led him to sending voice signals through a telegraph wire. Alexander wanted to improve his invention, so he created a lab where the photophone was created, which was able to wirelessly communicate with anyone.
Back in 1876, when the telephone was made, the way it worked was that it converted sound into an electrical signal via a liquid transmitter. When sound waves hit the membrane, it caused vibrations, varying the strength of the current passing between the needle and the contact. This process centered around directing sound through a receiver and onto a thin membrane stretched over a drum. On the outside of the membrane, a cork with a needle attached to a battery ex- extended to a cup filled with sulfuric acid and a metal contact. This created a varying strength electrical signal that traveled down a wire to a receiver, where through a reversed process the sounds were reversed and recreated. While not the only person to make a telephone, currently, Bell was the first to transfer his invention into a commercial product with a supporting network of exchanges and switchboards, etc. When we talk about the current time, the telephone has changed in how it works and even how it looks. Now, the telephone works because the sound energy in your voice makes the air vibrate. The vibrating air carries the sound energy into the phone. The electrical energy travels from the phone via exchanges to your friend's phone or anyone's contacts that you have. In the current telephone, when you have a number, you can save it, for you won't have to type the number in each time, and it will just be saved to your phone without having to either ask for the phone from your friend or anyone that it is.
The telephone enabled us to communicate from long distances in such short amounts of time. As time went on, the telephone evolved into a cell phone, which was a much more powerful phone that was able to do various tasks all at the same time. In major events like the Cuban Missile Crisis, where a huge misunderstanding happened, the president and the Soviet premier were able to settle things out by quickly calling each other and clearing things up. The telephone that we have today, which is called the cell phone, can perform various tasks that telephones were not able to do. Cell phones have allowed us to stay connected with our families, store data, and access the internet, where you can learn how to do pretty much everything. Cell phones have also allowed us to be able to call for help whenever an emergency arises and someone is in danger. You can see the news more easily or start chatting with people across the world instantly. Cell phones have provided a unique way to improve the quality of education. The use of the internet has become a part of life for every student. Internet, together with smartphones, provide an alternative channel to deliver education services and distant education. The ability to take a picture of something in real life and save it on your phone was a huge achievement. Social life has been drastically changed with the introduction of smartphones. Smartphones play an important role in the integration process of people with special needs, elderly age, and with some sort of disability.